professor in lecture that the entire brain and the spinal cord is covered by three protective layers. On the outside, we have the dura mater. That's what this is. So you have to picture this covering everything. That's the dura mater. Underneath that is a layer, looks like spider webs. You can see some of it right here. You'll be able to pull it up. Right here. See it right there. See it in between here. In fact, the whole thing's covered with it. That's the arachnoid. So you have the dura mater and the arachnoid. Beneath the arachnoid is the pia mater. Now that's on the very surface of the brain, so you don't see that. I can't ask you what that structure is. Dura mater, arachnoid, and pia mater. You also see there are two hemispheres separated by a longitudinal fissure. You see the raised areas, the gyri, and the grooves, the sulci, and you see blood vessels passing through those grooves. Behind the cerebral hemispheres is the cerebellum with two lateral lobes and a middle area called the vermis. Looks like a big worm sandwiched in there. Separating the cerebral hemispheres from the cerebellum is the transverse fissure. Behind cerebellum is the spinal cord. Any questions on the dorsal view? Okay, let's turn it over. And we look at the ventral view. Quite a bit different in appearance and structurally. Well, we know also that from this surface of the brain exits 12 pairs of cranial nerves. You're asked to be able to identify the first 6 on a specimen like this. So let me go through those with you. Nerve number 1 is called the olfactory nerve for the sense of smell. You can't see it because it's actually a number of small fibers coming off of this large bulb right here. So you have the olfactory nerve 1, olfactory bulb, olfactory tract going back into the brain. But for our purposes, for testing purposes, we'll call this nerve number 1, olfactory nerve. Nerve number 2 exits the back of each eyeball, so it's an eye here and an eye here, carries it back till it touches the brain where it crisscrosses. So the optic nerve would be out here to the eye, and where it crisscrosses is the optic chiasm. Optic chiasm. That allows information from each eye to go to each hemisphere. Crisscrosses. Optic nerve, optic chiasm, and the part that goes into the brain here and back here is called the optic tract. Nerve number 1, olfactory nerve number 2, optic. Nerve number 3 is this right here. Now we know there are 2 of these. The one was torn away, but we do have a nice one here. This is the nerve that innervates muscles of the eye, so it's called the eye mover, the ocular motor nerve. So it comes up here, innervates 4 of the 6 eye muscles. Number 3, ocular motor. Number 4 is a real tiny nerve that exits way down here and comes up. It's not on that side, but there is one on this side. And you can see it sticking up like a little hair right there. That's nerve number 4. That's a trochlear nerve. Now watch what happens with this thing. This tiny, fragile nerve exits between the cerebral hemispheres and the cerebellum, comes up and travels forward to innervate an eye muscle. That's strange to me. Why? If you were designing something like this, you would never have this fragile nerve come out way back here. Why not have it come out up here somewhere? Here's what I think is the explanation. When this nerve first appeared, the eyeball was about right here. For instance, if you look at a bird, birds don't have eyes pointing forward, they have eyes back here. So this nerve was well suited to supply that muscle. But as as the brain changed and the cerebral hemispheres got so big and the eyes moved forward so you had binocular vision, couldn't change the location of this thing, so it just followed along up here. Nerve number 4, the trochlear nerve. Here it is right here. Now nerve number 5 by comparison is a giant. It's this huge mass right here. And it usually gets torn off, so I go back to this one and I dissected away to show you the trigeminal nerve. It's this thing right here. It's huge. It comes forward, comes up on the side of the face, and breaks into 3 parts, trigeminal. Nerve number 5, trigeminal. Nerve number 6, we're back to this guy. Another tiny one. See it right there? Mm-hmm. There are 2. I don't know if I can see one on that side, but there should be 2 of them. Called the abducens. It also travels way up here to innervate the last eye muscle. So of the first 6 muscles, 4 are related to vision. Just tells you how important vision is. Let me go through the 6 again with you. Olfactory, optic, oculomotor, trochlear, trigeminal, abducens. Now, we skipped over a few things. Let's point out a couple more. Just behind the chiasm is a hole right there. This is where the pituitary gland has a little stalk and attaches there. Picture it like a little cherry hanging down with a stalk. The stalk is called the infundibulum. The pituitary sits up here. Well, it's imaginary. Until you look over here, now you can see it real nice. This is the pituitary gland. It has a stalk that comes up and enters right up here. Behind the infundibulum is a raised area called the mammillary bodies. On either side of the mammillary bodies is this huge column of tissue coming up on either side called the cerebral peduncles. The prefix ped refers to feet, so they refer to this as the feet holding up the cerebral hemispheres. Cerebral peduncles. Pons, medulla, spinal cord. Any question on the ventral view? Okay. Take it and we cut it in half, and we end up with this right here. The first thing we notice is that if you follow that longitudinal fissure down where you made the cut, the cerebral cortex continues down till it reaches this white area right here. I had you pull the cerebral hemispheres apart to show that white area. That's what this is. It's called the corpus callosum. It allows fibers to go between hemispheres back and forth. So it's like a bridge between them. But look at it here. This structure, the corpus callosum, forms the roof of the lateral ventricles. Here's one of the lateral ventricles. And you can go way back here, lateral ventricles. You know there are 4 ventricles inside the brain. 2 lateral ventricles, a 3rd, and a 4th. So this would be 1 and 2. 1 on this side, 1 on the other side. In life, what is located inside the ventricles?
Organs.
No.
Right.
Veins.
No.
No. What?
No. What is inside the ventricles? What kind of fluid?
Cerebral spinal
Cerebral
fluid.
spinal fluid. So in life, this would be full of fluid.
CSF.
We went through that, how important it was, and it circulates and so on. But a question I have is, what forms the fluid? There's a structure. And while you're thinking of it, I'll show it to you. And the model maker tried to show it here by showing red. Do I remember the name of that? It's called the choroid plexus. You see some here, you see some here, you see some back here. That forms the fluid. But when I look at this, so this is filled with fluid. There's a problem. What's to keep the fluid from just sloshing back and forth and all around everything? Well, Mother Nature solved that, of course, by forming a wall between the two ventricles. What's the name given to a wall in anatomy? Septum. See this membrane right here? See, this doesn't have a membrane. This is open. This side has a membrane called the septum pellucidum. That keeps the fluid inside. When you cut through it, one side is going to have the septum, the other one won't, because it's that thin. So this is the roof of the ventricle. That's the corpus callosum. Septum pellucidum. Down here is the floor of the ventricle. It's down here now. It's called the fornix. Just remember F, floor, fornix. Well, let's see here. When we look at this model, a nice model of ventricles, we know there are actually 4 ventricles. 2 we've now discovered, 1 and 2. Here's number 3, and 4 is back here. So 1 and 2 here. 3 should be here, but it's not. Even though that photograph there says it is, it's not. I'll tell you why. Look how thin that is. This thing is a huge, this is just a space between structures. Here's the 3rd ventricle right here. So I don't see a ventricle there. Let me show you. If I cut my hands together, we know there's a space in there. If I cut it like this and open up, what's left? A depression. See the depression right there? That's the 3rd ventricle. Now the 3rd ventricle communicates with the 4th ventricle by way of a canal. Here it comes right here, passes up here, and here's the 4th ventricle. That's this one here. In fact, you could actually continue and follow that, and you see the fluid going into the spinal cord canal, central canal. Cerebellum with the tree of life, arbor vitae. Okay, we're almost done. I'll go back to this region here. This area of the brain is called the diencephalon. It has 3 parts to it: epithalamus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. Epithalamus is also called the pineal body. It's involved with sleep patterns and maybe sex maturation. Epithalamus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. Pons, medulla. Any questions? I've managed to put you all to sleep. But I wanted to go over these with you. But now you have it on